Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our VRAllArt's online webinar series. So we are happy to tell you that we've started working on the 6 months edition of VRAllArt's Art and Tech Report, which will be released this fall in September 2022. So this 6 months version will recap the key industry numbers, but we'll have a deep focus on the investment portraits like VC companies, dedicated funds, and individual backers. So, but we have some raw numbers and no sense to hide those numbers. They were carefully assembled during the previous first half of 2022. So regarding investments into the art tech and NFT industry, we're happy to show you these numbers as a small part before the official release of the report. So as we can see, the investments in art tech and NFT startups are already ahead. I mean, these cumulative investments during the first 6 months are already ahead, 168% ahead of the total results of 2022. So, which means that despite the so-called bear market of the NFT trade and the crypto market, the investors truly believe in our ecosystem, and the ecosystem goes up. And yeah, our today's webinar, the guest of our today's webinar, our dear friend, has already survived a much bigger crisis, the pandemic. But not only survived, he developed his company into the whole ecosystem, and now he's among the pioneers of the virtual reality. I'm happy to introduce you to Vitomir Jevremović, founder and CEO of ALL.ART protocol, VRAllArt, and SolSea NFT marketplace. Vito has a background in both development and business. For nearly a decade, he's been creating VR, AR, web, blockchain, and mobile applications in different fields like marketing, culture, and education. So he also been working with projects for brands like the UBS Bank, BMW, SAP, AMD, Heineken, Nescafe, Mercedes Benz, Philip Morris, if I'm not mistaken. So, and Vito also authored one of the first VR museums, the VR Museum of Nikola Tesla. Hi, Vito. Thanks for joining us. I should disclose one more secret because there is a connection between ALL.ART and VRAllArts because our, let's say, big public presentations happened simultaneously during our Deloitte Art and Finance conference back in 2019 in Monaco. So we were in one hall supporting each other. And now, 3 years after, we are at one webinar. And my today's co-host also works for VRAllArts. I'm happy to welcome online for the first time Daria Rjavtseva, the business development manager of VRAllArts.
Hi.
So again, hi Daria, hi Vito. Let's move forward. Let me ask you the first question. You're known as the advent of VR and the author of this virtual reality museum of Nikola Tesla, but what was your initial reaction to virtual reality when you first heard about it, and how did your VR obsession start?
Well, our obsession in the company started with testing the first HTC Vive VR headset. We actually had the first Oculus, I think it was called DK2 version, but that was just not good enough at that time. Both in the resolution and also in tracking, and that was not the VR that we know today. And as soon as we got the first HTC Vive headset and started experimenting in virtual reality, we understood that this technology will probably change the world. And but even at that time, it had still a far way to go. But we wanted to utilize whatever could be done at that moment in time. And that's how we started developing a virtual museum of Nikola Tesla. And the crazy thing is that we actually got a developer kit for the HTC Vive even before the first Vive went onto market. So we started development of the museum before the Vive was officially published. And we launched the museum, and it was a big success. And the crazy thing about the museum is that we made a museum out of 5 stories about Nikola Tesla's life, where you can meet Nikola Tesla as an avatar, and he's talking to you, he's explaining his inventions and guiding you through the story of his life through 5 different episodes, let's say. At that time, we were very experienced in doing activations for clients, for the end clients, as you mentioned, on all sorts of events. Like these activations were either augmented reality or Microsoft Kinect, where you move your body to do something. So we knew how long a person that comes to the activation or comes into the museum has of, let's say, a focus or a time. So the time was the critical factor in creating the whole virtual museum of Nikola Tesla. And we said, like, okay, we need to build 5 stories. Each needs to last for 5 minutes. So that was the first experiment that we did in production of let's say, VR-ready content. And there, from experimenting with the first devices and building the first real-life application of virtual reality and implementing it in the museum, where the audience is coming every day, putting the headset on, they're waiting in queue, they had, they had to come to buy the ticket and then wait. I mean, it's an interesting challenge to have. We started thinking, where will VR go next? And what will be the real use case for VR beyond just implementing it inside of specific, let's say, institutions or retail? Are people going to buy things in VR? Are you going to go into VR to buy shoes or to buy, shirt? Is it going to be a games only platform, or is there something else? And that's how VRAllArt was let's say, sparked or introduced. The moment that we saw the connection between the museums, culture, and art that can come into the commercial sector of the art industry and bring in the galleries that will sell art in VR, it all made sense. And that's how VRAllArt started.
Thank you.
Thank you. And from your point of view, how can VR develop or improve the art sector, and what issues it can solve?
Well, first of all, VRAllArt started as a solution to a very specific problem in the art market, and that is transportation and the displaying of art. Because as we all know, to transport art from one geolocation to another geolocation on the globe, it's a very expensive, lengthy, and risky, in a way, process. And if you think about what VR can bring us, and it's a solution for that problem, right? You can come to a show, to an opening of a show, even though the show is not in your city. You can go visit, a museum or a gallery in London or in New York or in Tokyo, wherever you are on the planet. And I think that fact that virtual reality technology solves this problem is enough to use it, right? And to start experimenting with it and implementing it inside of the gallery business model. And when we talk about gallery business model and the way that this can open up the galleries to the whole world, is a very interesting development through the last couple of years, because we started VRAllArt in 2017. Now it's 2022. So we had a lot of experience in dealing with real life scenarios with galleries, with museums, with artists, and there's so many problems that occurred on our way of development of the platform, and also relationships with these people. And one of the problems was actually solved by hardware companies, right? So when we started doing VRAllArt, we had, of course, HTC Vive as the pillar of VR technology at that time. And you had a cable and you had a computer. And the Vive headset was I think 1,000 something euros. And then you had a computer that was at least 2,500 euros with a good graphic card. And then you had external monitor, which was another 500 or 600 or 1,000 euros. So altogether, to enable, people to see your gallery in VR in your gallery, which is not the real use case, you needed at least 5,000 euros, let's say, of investment and a very bulky installation. Like you had these, tracking devices, you had to put them in a space. You had a computer, you had to put it somewhere. It's a big box, and the Vive headset itself with the cable, which is a big problem. So as the time progressed, Oculus actually released 2 of its headsets. First Oculus was the first mobile headset that we were satisfied with. So when we tried first Oculus version, Oculus Quest, we said, this is it. Like, this is the moment where what we were been looking for. And in that moment, it became clear that mobile VR will actually dominate the market, not PC-based VR stations with the cable. So we said, okay, now everything that we have been doing so far is bringing galleries to a tremendously high level of details inside of these 3D models. We had to optimize for a mobile devices, which are actually these VR headsets that are mobile. And the hardware actually solved one of the biggest problems. That's cables, installations, computers, things like that. So as soon as the Quest 2 came to market, it solved the resolution problem. So when we go back in time, when the first headset started, the resolution was not good enough. Like you could have seen the pixels, and especially when we did art events and when we presented VRAllArt to the art audience, especially the traditional art audience, one of the biggest complaints were, like pixel density, resolution, like, hey, I can see pixels, this is not still good, like I don't feel very comfortable looking at art in this way. And you know what happened? And we said, yeah, sure, no problem, we understand. And the core concept was we need to develop things while hardware companies are developing hardware. Because as soon as we finish the platform, there will be devices on the market that will solve the resolution problem. And so it happened. Quest 2 came out, and Quest 2 really has a really high resolution displays. You can't see pixels, colors are beautiful, like everything is nice, and the device is small. And what is interesting is that it's very cheap. It costs, I think in the USA, like $300, and in Europe, maybe it's 300-400 euros, something like that. Which is, if you compare it to an iPhone, that's like 3 times less money than an iPhone. Which means every gallery can own one or maybe dozens of these headsets. And you can put it in your backpack, and you can take your gallery or your museum, across the world. So with only less than 1,000 euros, you could have 2 headsets running in an art fair and presenting a much wider area of works of art that you want to sell or you want to represent. So that's how the development of technology solved some of the problems that are key in the business development of the whole VR model in transporting the industry into the VR sector.
Thank you, Vito. While talking to a person who has already achieved some essential or substantial, better say, results and created a successful startup, it's always interesting to know what was the previous project where he implemented these ideas, or have there been a previous project. So my question is, could you elaborate a bit about your previous project? I mean, the first project where you used the VR technology before VRAllArt.
Yeah, well, that would be definitely the Museum of Nikola Tesla. I think that is important. And what we learned with the development of Nikola Tesla Museum, we did a lot of projects in VR after Tesla Museum. Like we did activations also for clients in VR segment. We did virtual fairs, which is also very interesting, and we will come to that point when we talk about art fairs in VR. But what was the key in let's say creating the model of what VRAllArt should be in the future is the fact that when you create a virtual reality application, you are using usually game engines, and you can, you need to put the assets, in the space. You need to build some programmatic tools, what to do in the space, how to interact with these things. You can do that in kind of right now in 2 or 3 different game engines. But what is important is that participants in the sector, like for example galleries or museums, they don't want to use game engines to create their museums in VR or just an exhibition in VR. They want to use a tool that will help them out in their own way, let's say, or in their own need, and that's very simple for them. It's like, hey, I have an art piece. I want to put it on a wall. I want to put a frame on it. I want to put, like a description on it. I want to put a statue here or some other piece of art. And this is what we needed to build. So we decided that we want to create a place on the internet where people can create exhibitions, and then these exhibitions will exist across the globe, right? And that was the key lesson that we learned from building a couple of different VR projects for clients, is that you cannot have that type of tools like game engines to be applied to a business that is, a gallery business or a museum business. So that's how VRAllArt started, and that's how all the lessons that we learned from developing the VR Museum of Tesla and other projects afterwards kind of influenced our view on where VR can be applied to culture and art.
Great, Vito, thank you. And let's talk about your platform and marketplace, VRAllArt, and what services does it offer to artists, to galleries, museums, and collectors exactly?
Well, before I start this, maybe I can also do kind of broader talk about like how we started integrating Web3 and what is the core of the blockchain applications in gallery model and generally the business of arts and culture. So we started looking at the same time when we envisioned VRAllArt, we started looking at how we can apply blockchain into the arts sector. And that was also the bull run of 2017 and 18. It was the hype, like, blockchain is going to change the art market. Everything will be different, And everybody said, like, the core thing, NFTs at that time were not even considered to be something special. Everybody was talking about blockchain being the core of the provenance of art, where you can track how the art is changing hands. Actually, they were talking about NFTs changing hands, but at the end of the day, the blockchain technology is behind all of that, and traceability was the main topic. But for us, the main topic was not only kind of NFTizing the art market, it was about money transfer and easy transmission, of money from one wallet to another. Because if you think about the art market, you are usually talking about top level galleries, of course, and dealers and auction houses and things. To buy an art piece online that costs 100,000 or 200,000 or $1 million or $2 million, it's almost impossible. You cannot go to a website and buy an art piece that costs $1 million, right? You cannot have a credit card that holds $1 million on the account, and I mean, the trouble that you have with the invoices, with transferring of money of any kind of in that range, it became logical that the blockchain and the cryptocurrencies will be the way to solve that problem. Like, you can go into the gallery, you have 5 pieces of art that costs $1 million, $2 million. You have that on your account. You just click buy, done. That's it. So at the moment that we started developing VR version, we also were thinking about how are we going to handle the transaction layer of the gallery business. And we saw that the crypto, let's say, way is the right way to go. And then when we developed the first version of VRAllArt, we wanted to do it on Ethereum, like to combine Ethereum inside of the platform. But Ethereum was always too slow and too expensive to use in all the scenarios that are not buying of art. Like, if you wanna sell digital tickets to a show or to a museum, you cannot do that easily on the Ethereum because it's just too expensive. If you wanna when the fuel gas prices on Ethereum go too high, sometimes you will pay much more for a gas fee than to a digital ticket, which costs maybe $5, and then it made the problem. So last year, what happened is that we finally chose a chain that we will integrate in VRAllArt, and that was Solana. Solana was cheap and fast, and it allowed us to develop these models further so that we can allow people to easily transfer the money on chain, and to have a platform that is fast, cheap, easy to implement, and that was Solana blockchain. So last year we started this journey back into the Web3 because have in mind, VRAllArt is a Web2 based platform. So we are now integrating Web3 inside of it, and then we are converting the whole platform to be native to Web3. So at that time last year, we connected with the Solana community and also with Solana founders, and got some great feedback and also connections with the founders of Solana. So we enrolled to an NFT hackathon track. We won in the NFT track with ALL.ART protocol, and then we started implementing ALL.ART protocol inside of VRAllArt. Key thing to understand is what is ALL.ART. So ALL.ART is a protocol layer where we put our products on top of it. So ALL.ART handles NFTs and handles NFT metadata, and handles also additional elements to NFTs that do not exist right now at least in the general usage of NFTs, like license rights, legal agreements that follow NFTs. And this is where we then decided to launch the first open NFT marketplace on Solana, which is called SolSea. So we released SolSea in late September last year, and we were the first, and we are still the only marketplace, I think, in the world that allows embedding of the license agreements inside of the NFTs when you mint them. And this we find is tremendously important for development, not only of art and culture sectors, but also of any vertical that wants to use the NFT in a proper way, like music, like real estate, like ticketing, like whatever you want. You need to have a kind of a legal agreement that follows this NFT. Otherwise, you're just buying a hash in a blockchain. You don't know what you own. And this is another topic. We can talk about it for hours. This is the legal side of the NFTs, but we are very aware of it, and we are handling. We started handling parts of that process, and we think the future lies actually in the proper implementation of the legal models that follow NFTs from one wallet to another, in order to protect the buyer and the seller when they're selling their NFTs, whatever the NFT represents. So anyway, that's how it all started last year. We've been running SolSea ever since September. We released a new version of SolSea 2 weeks ago, which completely changed the look and the feel of the marketplace. And our vision of SolSea marketplace is that not only the SolSea, but the whole NFT sector, is that it's not about PFP collections. it's about providing creators a platform to sell their creations and create communities around their creations in this new model. This is what we call creator economies. Like a new, future for the whole planet is to kind of empower these small creators or big creators to create communities around it and economies that evolve around their creations, if that makes sense.
Cool. It's very nice. I mean, I'm happy to hear the wording creative economy from you, Vito, because let's say in terms of numbers, the creative economy, the whole creative economy back in 2021 was, I mean, the volume of the money spent by people on different, let's say, in different spheres of creative economy was $2.3 trillion. So when we say that these or that startup deals with the whole creative economy, it makes a great potential available market for them. So good, yeah. These are the numbers that all the startups should know. Actually, my next question would have been, what makes your SolSea marketplace special? Because you've already achieved the preference to be named as the company #1 in VR sector. But as for the other marketplaces, as for the other NFT marketplaces, we know that there are 8 curatorial marketplaces, and the rest are dealing more or less with the flea market. So as soon as I understand, you're trying to reach the niche of the marketplace, NFT marketplaces, with the curatorial approach. But you've just enumerated the factors that differ your marketplace from the others. And again, congratulations with the new versions, which was successfully released 2 weeks ago. We've started it. We navigated through it, so it really looks great and easy to operate there. So let me change my question into the next one. Being founded in 2018, VRAllArt is already 4-year-old, which is quite a result for a sustainable startup. So could you please enumerate the key milestones of your company on this short but productive path, and what lessons have you learned? And especially the pandemic case, I mean, where all the world understood that the art market means nothing without a technology.
Do we have a couple of hours? Lessons learned. This is so, I mean, the cool thing is to be critical about yourself and your team, and we've been very critical. And I think it's also realism, like being real in dealing with the market and the customers, and where is our position in the market, how we can be better in what we are doing is a key thing. Because a lot of startups, especially in these hype cycles, are kind of promoting holy grail of this or that, like we're gonna change the world, Well, the world is difficult to change. Like all traditional things are difficult to change. And we saw that when you mentioned pandemic, this is also a very, very interesting topic that I will lean VRAllArt onto. So when we started in 2018 with the company and developing of the product, we first thought, it's going to be a VR and it's going to change the world. Well, it still hasn't changed the world. And then while we were doing it, the PC headsets, as I mentioned, were the thing. Then the mobile headsets came along, and so we had to completely rewrite the platform and basically reprogram most of the things that we already did. And that was like a very big task for us, and the big decision that was almost like a pivoting for the whole project and product. It's like, hey, are we gonna do this for a high resolution devices, or are we gonna do this for mobile devices? And during these very turbulent times, because if you remember, 2018 was a crash of crypto markets. 2019 was a complete bear market. No one was interested in blockchain and crypto, and VR was also kind of diminishing in interest. So then 2020 happened, and in 2020, as Corona was hitting us, at that time we actually kind of brought the platform to a kind of a fully usable version. We used it. I mean, we worked with galleries and museums ever since the beginning of the development. Easily, like a couple of them, they were experimenting with the tools, they were experimenting with the platform, but we didn't release it publicly. We didn't open the gates, let's say, to people. And then in 2020, when Corona started, every gallery was closed down, every museum was closed down, and you can see a spike in our visitors to the website in one day, 5 times. And everybody started searching for virtual exhibitions, anything like virtual exhibition. How can I make a virtual exhibition? Because every exhibition was canceled, every show was canceled, everything. So people started asking us, can we build virtual exhibitions today? And we asked them, do you have VR headsets? And they said no. And that was a first big, let's say, a barricade or a blocking moment in our, we were so happy that we had the platform ready and the editor for making exhibitions ready and everything. And then, suddenly everybody wants it, but no one can actually use it because they don't have VR headsets. So we decided, okay, let's, get on board and do what people actually need. And what people needed at that moment was virtual exhibition on the web. So they wanted to build virtual exhibitions to be accessible on their website. And we said, oh my God, let's do this. Okay, so then we again, stopped our let's say development cycles and started reprogramming the platform to work as a web viewer on the website. And we did that pretty fast because the technology was already there. So we did that in about a month, I think. And then we started onboarding first galleries and artists and also universities, which are a very interesting target group that wanted to do virtual exhibitions on the web. And during the first couple of months of Corona, we were then experiencing the problems that people had by having the web version, I have a very low spec desktop, this cannot run on my desktop, let's optimize the platform, real life. That's what we like to call it, touching the real life. And what was interesting in 2020, by the end of 2020, we finally integrated VR and web into one kind of, the same output that you get on the web, you got in VR. It works on a mobile VR device. It works on a desktop. It works on a mobile phone. It was also a big effort to create all of that, because 3D, real-time 3D is hard. It's not, it's not a development of a website. It's more like a gaming technology implemented on the web, which is not a native platform for gaming in 3D. A mess. But what happened then in 2021 was even more interesting. So beginning of 2021, we started developing of our own avatar system, because we had the in-house knowledge and capabilities and people that were working, of course, on 3D galleries and 3D assets. But we also started working on avatars. And we saw the need that when you come into the VR, you're actually meeting people. Okay, it was an empty gallery at the beginning. It was not boring, but it was, it's a single user experience, as we call it, right? And when we started developing the avatar platform, there was a lot of also challenges and, as you mentioned, lessons learned. How does an avatar in VR looks like, so that it's not it's attractive and it's not disgusting, but how do you say this in English? It's repellent. Yeah. So anyway, you need to like the avatar that you see and you need to enjoy the presence of that avatar in order to have a joyful experience. And there's this a term that is very well known in the computer graphics. It's called Uncanny Valley. And that's a moment when you're trying to reach a realistically looking human being in computer graphics. There's one moment that you're moving from, I don't know, a very cartoonish like character into the, like more and more realistic characters. And then you reach a point where it's unpleasant. When it's not yet there, it's not perfect, and it's unpleasant. And that valley of uncanny experience goes all the way until you reach perfect replication of a human being in VR. And we said, okay, this will not run on a mobile device. If we go that far, it will not run on a mobile device. We need to create avatars that will look not cartoonish, but also not realistic. So some fine line of a very unique looking characters that we want to build as a kind of a property of ALL.ART and VRAllArt. So we did that. We developed our own characters, and then we made the first VR party. And that was crazy. Like the first test of the avatars was actually by a Swiss collector, and that was during the pandemic. So he had a problem. He had it was his 60th birthday, like 60, right? And he had a lot of friends in Switzerland, but they could not move. They cannot get out of their homes, and it was his big birthday, right? So we made a kind of a first test with him, with the gallery, with his art that he collected. He made a party. He bought headsets and he sent them out as presents to his friends. And we all came together in this gallery for a party. It was like a 15 people in VR space at the same time. And that experience showed us that this is real. It's going to work. It's going to work well. And it's a very, very unique, enjoyable experience. So that was like, you cannot imagine, like they're older guys, right? And they were jumping in the middle of the gallery, testing the headsets, dancing together, touching themselves. Because in VR, in our system, you can see your avatar hands, but also the full arm. And you can see your avatar. If you look down, you can see your body, but no legs. And it's really crazy. We also had female avatars and male avatars. And there was moments that we went around the walls, like the coolest place to be on the home party is in the kitchen. In the kitchen, everything is happening. So that was, in our case, in the gallery, that was behind one of the walls of the galleries, because you cannot hear the other people talking in the middle of the gallery. So you go around the wall to have a private conversation, and then one moment you say, okay, let's go back to the main party because everybody's there. But I'm talking about the party, but actually you can just imagine that as an opening of an exhibition. So that was that experience. Like, hey, I'm opening an exhibition and I'm inviting people from all around the world to join me in this experience that they cannot have in real life because they're just too far away, right? They would need to, be on a plane and go to a specific show, and they cannot do that, right? You cannot have 20 people from different parts of the world coming to an opening in a gallery in London, for example, or in Zurich. So that teaches us that everything that we are doing has a real purpose, and it really has a point. And what we also learned about the lessons learned, I also want to share something important that will be for the audience here tremendously interesting. And that is the difference between environment that is photorealistic and the exhibition that looks photorealistic and the one that is done in a more kind of game-ish way. Like, okay, it's an environment, but the rendering is not, super realistic. What we learned by testing the platform and developing the platform throughout the years is that the moment that we produced photorealistically looking exhibitions with all the right shadows, all the spotlights pointing, calculating light in a proper like a rendering way, people were concerned about the space. In the moment that we reached photorealistic rendering, people were not looking at the space, they started focusing on art. And it makes all the sense, right? When you think about it, when you put the VR headset on, if you feel that you're in a real gallery space or in a real home, virtual home, wherever, it feels right. The lighting is reflecting in the right way, everything is, colors are right. You say, okay, I'm in the gallery. And you stop worrying about the space and stop worrying about the fact that you are in virtual reality, and you focus on the content. And this is where we want them, right? We want people that come into the show to focus on the art and not worry about the space, not worry about the shadows or the renderings of the lights or whatever. So I think this is one of the key things that we learned throughout the development of the platform, is that you need to bring in photorealistic spaces in order to have that experience that is similar or equal to real life. And when I talk about this, we also did how do you call this, a research, right? A paper together with a laboratory for experimental psychology in University of Belgrade, and also in Germany. They're collaborating to use VRAllArt as a platform for psychologists to do research on how art affects people. They're already doing, there is a group, a secret group of psychologists that are doing a lot of research. They have a conference once a year, I think more than 1,000 of them all around the world, that are studying how art is affecting people, all different types of art or different setups of art. And we did a research with them. We had a show in real life and a clone, a replica of that in VRAllArt. The same show, like all the same paintings on the walls in the same arrangement, everything was the same. And the results of that study said that there is no statistically detectable difference between engaging or how art affects people in virtual reality compared to real life. But there is a statistically detectable difference in how art is perceived when you sit in front of the computer screen. So we did like a three-way study, like, okay, real life compared to computer screen, real life compared to VR. And this gave them a kind of a carte blanche to do research in virtual reality in the same way that they're doing it in real life, and they can use these results as a valid results. Because they said, okay, there is no difference, which means that they can do studies in VR and not use the real life galleries to do that, which gives them freedom, amazing freedom. Change the colors of the walls with one click, like study whether the white color of the wall is better than the black color of the walls, or, things like that. So that was also a big lesson that we learned, is that VR is really a technology that is not, let's say, it's the technology that can be used for let's say art and culture.
Cool. Vito, amazing findings, and thanks for sharing it with us and our audience. Daria, your next question.
We have talked about the history of VRAllArt creation. We also talked about milestones and lessons you've learned. But where you see VRAllArt in 4 or 5 years?
That's the toughest question so far. So to kind of understand where we are right now and what is our mission and vision on what we are trying to change in the world and what we are building for is, if I had a paper, a presentation, but I could draw it on a paper and put it on a camera. So, but let's imagine like this, okay? So we have ALL.ART as the base layer of the protocol infrastructure that we are building. The main problem with the current NFTs, if we want to bring art galleries, museums, and other forms of NFTs, like, for example, avatars, into the Web3, this new future where we are owners of our assets, digital assets, and real life assets, registered on the blockchain. If we want to do this, we need a lot of improvements on the NFT standards, the way that NFTs are handled, the way that the data is written on-chain and off-chain. So this is one piece of the puzzle that we are solving. Like the metadata that is stored inside of the NFTs is just rubbish currently. It's nothing. I don't know if you're familiar or the audience is familiar about what is an NFT actually. It's a metadata file that is stored in a file system. Sometimes it's decentralized, sometimes it's not. It's on the servers. It's a mess. And you have like 3 or 4 data points inside of that. You don't have standardization in any of the data fields inside of the metadata. Just as a short example, I can tell you, like, if you want to put a painting like this one on the blockchain, there is no standardized way to write inside of the metadata with height and the material of the painting or the technique of the painting. There is no kind of way to do that so that apps can read that and say, okay, this is a painting of 1 meter by 1.5 meters. So we first need to solve these puzzles, like putting the right metadata standards there, allowing people to mint NFTs which represent real life assets or digital assets with additional info points that then apps, marketplaces, virtual reality apps, metaverses can actually use. This is ALL.ART. On top of ALL.ART, we are putting products. Okay, so this is SolSea Marketplace. This is VRAllArt platform. This is our own metaverse that we will be building. We are building it, but we'll be releasing. And then there are other, stakeholders surrounding these different elements of the whole ecosystem of ALL.ART. And we see that these products are actually all intertwined between themselves. So as we are building the protocol infrastructure that will handle NFTs of the next generation, we are building a 3D NFT standard that will be a part of this protocol. And the 3D NFT standard we already have in VRAllArt. The only trouble is it's not on chain. So we are restructuring VRAllArt as a platform to work on Web3 fully, which means that every asset in the exhibition, for example, is an NFT. The same that the exhibition space is an NFT and the exhibition is an NFT. So everything is an NFT. But when you think about NFTs, probably people are kind of connecting that to these, tradable things or like PFPs. But no, NFT is a non-fungible asset. Actually, it's an asset that is represented in a digital format. So if you think about the exhibition, every spotlight is a digital asset, every plant is a digital asset, and every avatar is a digital asset. And every t-shirt that avatar wears is also a digital asset. So SolSea, avatar system, VRAllArt, metaverse and metaverses that are surrounding different verticals, and then different types of NFTs that will be supported by all of these different platforms is where we are heading. So how this road will unwind to us in the future, we don't know. We are, navigating through the very difficult waters, let's say, especially when the bear market hits like now. But this is where we see, the development of ALL.ART in our company and all the products that we are building. But if you ask a very specific question, and you did ask, and that's where the future of VRAllArt is, we have now a task within the company is to redefine the branding of ALL.ART. So is the VRAllArt a brand of itself, dedicated to fine art, cultures, and museums, or is ALL.ART actually VRAllArt? And where does the SolSea, as the now curated marketplace, but with a kind of flea market, approach, stands in the communication of the whole ecosystem? And this is a difficult thing to answer. We are still building, the core elements, and now in the strategic meetings, we are trying to, reposition, see how the naming will go, how the products will fit. But I can tell you one very important thing. metaverse. this new term that when we were talking internally, we said like we had a metaverse before the metaverse was a word. Like we had it, we were using it, and then Zuckerberg came along and said like a metaverse. Okay, what is the metaverse? And everybody's actually asking what is the metaverse, and how we see what is the metaverse. It's a place of meeting. Okay, it's a moment where you come into this space and you're not just exploring an empty space, you're actually meeting people. So it's a social platform, metaverse, like a place to meet. And when you say meet, what we actually think about are events. So it's a place of virtual events where people are meeting each other, interacting, and having also interaction with the environment, meaning like, for example, buying art or visiting a virtual exhibition in a museum. So we defined 6 core pillars of what we are going to do in the next phase of VRAllArt, and who are we talking to and how we are mixing all of that. First, these are the galleries. Second are independent artists. Now, if you think about it, it's all around exhibitions. Okay, so everything is an exhibition. So galleries, independent artists, private museums, public museums, auction houses or auction houses, and art fairs. So this is the core of what we have already been doing. Now we're going to kind of pile it all up together, because we have hundreds of exhibitions created on VRAllArt. We did a couple of very interesting art fairs in VRAllArt, like, for example, DAFA, which is a digital art fair of Asia. We also did Ars Electronica art fair together with .art domain last year. And we did also First 100, which is the art fair of SolSea. We had 100 artists that applied to be a part of the digital art fair, virtual art fair. And we had, this is also an interesting number, we had 90,000 people visiting the First 100 art fair. And if I ask you, like, is there an art fair that was visited by 90,000 people? I mean, there may be a couple of them that happen around the globe, but the fact that it exists online and it's visited almost by 100,000 people, that's a huge amount of people. And the potential is there to utilize virtual reality, of course, VR, virtuality on the desktop or on the web, to bring in these people to meet each other. And this is what the district of ALL.ART metaverse that is dedicated to art and culture will be. It's putting together in one place all the things that we already did, all the partnerships, people that we are already working with, and the new ones that are coming every day in one, let's say, environment, in one space where they can organize events and where people can meet each other. And that is, I think, the future of art metaverses, whether it's ours or anybody else's. The thing is that we need to build a space that solves the problem, that art in the virtual reality solves the problem, and crypto in art solves the problem, and that people can then utilize this technology for the benefit of the whole sector, and to actually spread the word or reach the areas on the globe that cannot be reached. And here I want to also point out a very interesting email that we got years ago from a guy from Australia. And he said, he wrote a thank you email. He said, thank you for creating VRAllArt, because I live 3 hours from the closest small city. My children can never visit a museum or a gallery because it's just too far away from them. Like they're, if they want to do that, they cannot do it every day. Like they can do it maybe once a year, maybe. So if you think about the planet Earth and all these, different small cities, small countries, where people just, they cannot afford, they cannot have this luxury of going to a high-level museum or a high-level gallery, experiencing art of famous authors, just looking at maybe on a computer screen or a mobile. This is nothing compared to what VR can bring them in education, in information about their own cultural heritage. And I think this is where I drive my passion from, and I try to implement it inside of what we are building. Like, bring in the cultural heritage, bring in art to distant part of the globe, and make the whole world a better place. If that makes sense.
Great, Vito, thank you. While you're answering, we all felt that you really have passion towards what you're doing, which is very important for a founder, and that sounds very optimistic, and that sounds very inspiring. I could only comment that nearly half ago, when the metaverse hype began, one person asked me, so who was the pioneer of the metaverse expansion? I said, well, VRAllArt, but they are doing virtual reality. I said, yeah, but what is metaverse? What is metaverse based on? So yeah, and the way you explain your development and continuous research and search of the next level market fit and the next level business model proves that your company is on the right way, because it's a continuous search of the right market fit and exploring new markets and building a community around your ideas. And yeah. So Daria, your last question, and I believe that will be the based on what we've heard from Vito, the next question should assemble everything and just resolve the interest of audience of sharing the secrets of the successful startup build. Am I right?
Yeah, our standard question to all our guests: what would be your 3 top tips for aspiring art and tech founders?
Well, top 3 tips. I think touching the real life is one very important tip. So do not expect that people will need what you think they will need. It's a very difficult thing. Like, Alex and myself, Alex is a co-founder of VRAllArt. We went to Art Basel's every year, and we talked to galleries there. And you cannot imagine how they were repellent or really, disgust with the idea that someone will use virtual reality or computers to see art. And that happened before Corona. And then Corona came, and then a lot of views changed about it. But I think that this touch of reality, when especially when people from the tech sector come into other industries, they believe that they found the solution, and then the people that you want them as your customers or as your clients, then tell you, like, why would we want something like that? Like, we don't care about it. I think that this touch of reality is the first step. Like, find not only the ones that want to implement your solution, but the ones that don't want to implement your solution. Talk to them, like, ask them things. Be very humble. Be very humble, because, these people, they know what they want. You cannot, tell them what they want. You need to find what they want. And on topic of that, that's the second tip. And the second tip is, you want to be in the place where the party is. Okay? So this is how we formulated this last year. Like, if the party is in the NFT sector, you want to be on that party. Because if you're on the right party, then there is money on that party, there is people on that party, there is communities on that party. So you need to find where either the next party is, but to be very, it's difficult to kind of have a crystal ball and know exactly where the next party is. But if the party is ongoing and everybody is crazy about that party, you should be one of the first people on that party. But even if you're in the middle of the party, it's okay, but the important thing is that if you're on the right party and there is an interest, there are communities, there are people interested in implementing your tech idea or whatever you're building. There is competition, you will fight with the competition, and that's also a big thing. So be where the party is. And then the third tip also comes as something that is maybe actually I can share 4 tips. The third tip is on the side of the competition. Okay, so the competition is difficult, especially when you're on the right party. Like SolSea had a big competition, because we were at the right party at the right time, and we lost in the first round of let's say we lost the first battle, but we didn't lose the war. We lost the first battle because the competing marketplaces used some of not ethical methods. Okay, so competition is fierce. So be very mindful of your competition and study what they're doing, know what they're doing. Do not expect that they will be welcoming you as a competitor. They will not. So that's a third thing, especially if you have something that is a hit. So they will copy you, they will fight against you, they will be faster than you, they will be better than you. So it's a very, be mindful of the competition and be very humble towards your clients and your audiences, basically communities. Build them. And the fourth tip is on the investment side. So I would suggest that, we raised funding round last year. We are preparing now in the middle of the bear market. We are preparing a new funding round to, extend everything that we are building, raise more funds. I would say that in searching for funding, the tip is be very simple. Be very precise and very simple on what you want to do and what you want to achieve. Because if you get too technical, people will lose you on the first pitch. In the first 5 minutes, you will never get them back. This is what we learned in pitching all our protocol, all these infrastructural elements last year. When I reached slide 5, they could not follow. When we reached slide 10, they were, going back to the slide 5 to explain again that no. When we started talking about creator economies, they got it. It was, we simplified our pitch, we simplified our way to approach the investors, because at the end of the day, they're not experienced in the tech, like in programming, the things that we are experienced on, and they don't understand what we're talking about. So do not talk about deep tech, talk about the effect, talk about the big goals and the, what you're really trying to solve and achieve, and simplify your text. If that helps anyone.
Yeah, thank you. That really sounds amazing, and that corresponds to our experience as VC investors. Yeah, right. If I were an investor, I would have deployed the money into your company right now. I mean, if you have been raising money right now, and that would have been your elevator pitch. So yes.
Nice. But I'm really there to tell this story to others, so that we can share what we learned with other people. And if the audience has any questions or something, we can definitely, if there's a specific topic that you want me to cover, we can organize these webinars also later on, especially if there are more people that are interested in a specific topic, how does the avatar behavior in VR affects your whatever, and then we can talk about that, or metadata standards, or how do we reach 1 million people in virtual reality art industry. Difficult. And yeah, I'm open to any suggestions.
Thank you for this offer, for that opportunity. We'll be happy to invite you, and I mean, again and again, and in between we'll specify the topic, and let's see what the market shows us. I mean, in the next months. But I should assure you and all the other audience, I mean, the young startups who are seeking for an investment, that there is still plenty of money on the market, and let's say by the beginning of July 2022, more than $10 billion have been stored, have been preserved to be deployed in art tech and NFT startups by huge funds like Anderson Horowitz and Binance Foundation and others. I mean, more than 20 funds have already raised more than 10 billion to be deployed in the startups, which will happen by the end of the year. So yeah, there are still money in the industry. The ecosystem goes up, and the current decline, so-called the bear market, is one of the drivers of any markets. You know, it brings us
new winners.
New winners, right, as the dust calms down. So we see the new winners, and when we see the
new builders. I mean, a lot of really quality projects actually started or were kind of accelerated, enhanced during the bear markets, because there is no such pressure that we experienced in the last year, you know, like in the hype of the NFT market. That was just too crazy. Like, things were changing, you know, 180 degrees in a week, and you had to be very fast on the market. And I think that during the bear market, you know, a little thought can be placed inside of the development. It's not all about rush and flipping and earning, you know, quick cash.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We shouldn't forget that, let's say, the today's unicorns, even decacorns like OpenSea, and unicorns Super Rare and Nifty Gateway and Known Origin. I mean, they started their business as startups during the previous bear market.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So thank you, Vito, for being with us and for sharing your amazing experience. We wish you success, and we wish you a continuous research of where to apply your skills and the skills of your fantastic team.
Thank you, Dennis and Daria, for hosting us. And let me invite you to, as avatars, to meet in a gallery.
Thank you. Thank you. That will be an amazing experience and trip. See you in a week. Bye.
See you. Bye.